Hello, everyone. We are finally back with another episode of Little Bit Unhinged. Casey's here.
Hello.
Hi, Casey. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I do enjoy the thought of the banter at the beginning of podcast with two people that act like they haven't talked for 5 minutes or more before the podcast starts. So I want to get that out of the way. Just make sure that we feel like we're doing this fresh. I just walked in off the street. We haven't seen each other for however the hell long it's been since we recorded one of these.
2 months? 3 months?
Has it really been that long?
Probably not that long, but it's been a bit. Been a minute.
Been a minute. Well, thanks for coming back and sticking with us. I'm excited to be back at it. One day when we're making millions of dollars off this podcast and then I don't have to work for a living, then this won't happen again.
Yeah. Well, when we're at that point, we can be doing daily podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah. But until then, the man keeps me down. So anyway, we're back. We're going to do a gaming one. I don't know if this is going to be the first one or the second one, but you'll know when you're listening to this. Little inside baseball. We really like the idea of talking about a year of stuff because it's just fun to see the way that, especially when we're talking about gaming, the gaming world kind of developed around a year. A year is a perfect framing device for what happened in a year. I know that's reductive, but I mean, it's a good framing device for just how the gaming experience has changed. And, you know, we spent some time talking about 98 a little bit because of Ocarina of Time. And now we decided to jump 2 feet into modernity. That's not the right word. For 2017 is where we're going now. Now, before I even start, do you have, I mean, I know you do. I know the answer to this question, but like, what's your first thought when you talk about gaming in 2017?
Horizon and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
That was also the year that I bought my PlayStation 4 and really started to dive into video gaming again.
Nice.
Because I had taken, not really a hiatus, but in college I didn't play very much, and then after college I didn't play games very much, and then I did a temporary assignment for work and was new place, new location, not a lot of friends, didn't know anybody yet. And so I bought a PlayStation 4, and that's the same time that Horizon came out. I did have a Switch, so I'd already started playing Breath of the Wild.
Sure.
But that's when I really picked up again. And then also just how many good games came out in that year.
There's a lot of good games that came out that year.
And you can kind of look and see at different years and different points in time of which ones, because we've done 1998 kind of before. We mostly focused on the other episodes with movies.
Right.
But 2017 was a pretty special year.
It was a pretty special year.
As far as the games and the releases and things that came out.
Yeah, it was a pretty special year. The first thing that I thought of once we kind of looked, I didn't realize it was what year it had, but maybe like in my top 3 games of all time came out that year, which is Cuphead, which I will talk about to anybody that listens. Even though I'm not good enough to beat it, I don't care. I'll still fire it up, at least for like charity game streams or whatever, to play it because I think it's marvelous. Just visually and audio wise. The dream that the vision that they had came through perfectly.
Yeah.
And as friends of the show will know, I'm a little bit of a sucker for some bullet hell, even though, again, I'm not very good at it. But I do enjoy to play bullet hell-y type of games, and that is quite a way to experience some bullet hell and challenging bosses. And having a game that's 99% boss fights is kind of fun. It's not Shadow of the Colossus style, of course, but still very unique in that you just have these multi-stage bosses that you got to deal with. But I listened to the soundtrack from the game more than I played at this point. I think it's just delightful. So just a banner year for just that. I think there's a lot of people's... I feel like this is fair to say. Maybe this isn't fair to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because who's going to stop me? I think this is where a lot of people's like top 5 games exist that are pretty regular gamers is in 2017,
Yeah.
right? Because we have, as we mentioned, Horizon Zero Dawn
Yep.
and Breath of the Wild, which you'll be surprised to find I have not beaten. I know this is going to be a shock to everybody. Basically, I stopped playing once my first stick broke, and I just haven't focused to come back into it yet. I'm going to get back into it at some point. Actually, that's not true. I stopped playing when I got blown up by the rotating eyeball tank thing. That's what got me, is rolled by an eyeball tank. But I know it's amazing, and eventually I'll get back in there and do it.
You'll be shocked to know that I did beat it.
Yeah. You probably beat it more than once at this point. Is there DLC and stuff? Do you get a motorcycle?
Yeah, I did the DLC as well, but I don't think I ever actually restarted another session of it. I didn't replay it. I just would always pick up the same game and keep exploring.
And finish it off. Nice.
Because I finished the story, but there were still things to just go see.
Right. Which is what's amazing about it.
Yeah. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and so that let me kind of start fresh all over again.
Right. Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, which is also amazing. But we'll talk about that in
2023.
Oh, was it just last year? Feels like it's been around for forever.
I feel like it was just last year.
I feel like I've seen every video of the little creatures being tortured by giant magical creations for a while. So
poor little buddies.
Yeah.
I was nice to them every time.
But you give people a torture engine, they're gonna take it in a video game. It's just the way people are.
Also Mario Odyssey for 2017.
Yes.
That was a really great, because I didn't like Galaxy, as we've heard in one of my previous games.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since I had really gotten into a Mario game, and Odyssey was just the perfect game for that. To really get back into Mario and start fresh and see it from a new perspective.
Yeah, it was a good reintroduction of pure 3D Mario.
Yeah.
Here's going to be the hottest. I'm not even going to call it a hot take because it's not a take. I just don't care for 3D Mario. I just want to play 2D Mario. I don't want to have to deal with I mean, look, I'm like this about most games, to be honest. I don't really want to play in 3D very much.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
I don't want to play in 3D when movement is so crucial because I'm not good at it. Mm-hmm. Like if you were to watch me right now try to play the first few levels of Super Mario 64, you'd be embarrassed.
We can fire it up. I have it here.
You'd be embarrassed. So it's just more of a me problem in that. So I got so far in that game, but it frustrated the hell out of me. And it's not that difficult. And I know it's not that difficult.
No, I think some of them can be really difficult. Are they stars in that one?
Yeah.
To get, some of them can be really tough.
But I made it to...
Or no, they're moons. They're moons. And yeah.
I made it to New Jack City. That's not right. Wherever Paulie is the mayor, the actual like New York City type situation.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the city in it.
I'm calling it New Jack City. Tupac was there. But one of the things is me and a friend of mine, you could play 2-player and 1 player could be the hat, and she loved being the hat.
Oh yeah.
And you could do a lot of fun stuff when you have a 2nd player as a hat. Like it would help you cheat because the hat could like positions itself and spins. So you could jump on it and get places. Like you could do some fun stuff. I'm sure you could do it if you could use a controller like a real person, but I can't do that. So, but anyway, not to knock it, it's a great game. It's also a year. This is another kind of touchstone in the world. It's also the year that PUBG came out, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which one of the big kickoffs of the survival multiplayer battle royale type of game. It was one of the forefathers of that. Like Rust was another one. I think it's called Rust. Yeah, Rust was another one. But PUBG was like the big popular one.
Okay. Yeah, I never played that one.
I never did either. I played a little bit of Fortnite. That's as much as I am into it. But it's at least important to note that it was like it was really the front, the explosion that really kicked that whole thing off. And then Fortnite took over and people spend $1 billion on it. And it has every property in the world. And it's so weird. But I'm old, and that's the problem with that. Also, fans of the show, big Persona fans. And I'm not a Persona person, Again, only because the gameplay makes me sick. Not the gameplay,
Really?
just the moving around the world. The actual turn-based like combat-y situation, I'm all about, but I
Yeah.
can't do anything else because it makes me sick.
I don't even remember much of traverse. Well, I mean, you do move around the city and stuff a
Yeah.
good bit, and
Well, and this is the thing. I'm also just saying Persona in a general sense. I couldn't tell you which one it was I played, so it could have been 2 or 1. Or, because they just re-released them, and they had them on the Xbox
Yeah.
store. So I don't know which one it was I played. There might be ones I could play, but I feel like, well, look, I can't play 5 if I haven't played 1 through 4. What the hell's the matter with me?
sure you can.
It seems like a game that you really could do that.
I think
Is
that,
5
I
the
think
one
that
that
they're
you're in
all
school
anthology, right?
and
Just
you
like
have
Final
to-
Fantasy.
Are they? Okay, I didn't know.
I believe that they
Alright.
are. So
So you could just jump in.
yeah,
But there's one that like you just kind of go from place to place, and you have like just kind of more menu select, where you're like, I got to do this thing, and then I got to go to bed on time, and I got to.
that's Persona 5.
Okay, that's Persona 5. Okay, I could maybe do Persona 5. Maybe I'll do Persona 5 and.
And that one did release in 2017, I think.
Yeah, I did. Persona 5 is the one that came out in 2017.
And I did play it, not in 2017, but I played it later. And it is a fun game and a good game. I have some criticisms about it, but I enjoyed it overall. But the first palace that you go to is a pretty rough subject matter. And then, yeah, the life simulator, some of that stuff,
Right.
I didn't really get it to begin with, like
Sure.
when time passes versus
Yes.
when it doesn't pass.
Yeah.
So it was hard to really enjoy it to
Yes.
begin with. And
Yeah, you
it took
kind
a
of have to
bit.
dip into like, and I think that's why people love it so much. That love it is because you have to like, you kind of have to absorb it
Yeah.
to really get it. And apparently it's very fulfilling when you do absorb it,
Yeah.
right? It really rewards you for getting it.
Yeah. And it's a very good and intricate kind of story and idea too. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I also, me as well as almost everybody that I know that has played it, had to take a break in the middle after like the 3rd or 4th palace. We all just quit for 6 months and then went back to it later and then finished it. And
Okay.
it's one of those that, because it's rare for me to do that,
Sure,
where I just
right.
take a break for a while, but
Right.
that's one where I did.
A while for a game you were going to go back to and beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually if I put it down, I'm done with it.
Right.
And I'm usually somebody who does start to finish playthroughs.
Yeah. Well, look, I because previous to this moment, I thought, well, I shouldn't get into 5. I shouldn't get into the ones I know I could play because of the ones I couldn't play, but I might have to give it a try.
Yeah, I thought that they were all kind of an
Yeah.
anthology with different premises and
Nice.
stories and different characters.
Right. I'm about it.
Similar themes, like there's still
Sure.
fusions and stuff.
yeah.
But I think the fusions that are in Persona 5 are completely different from
Than
the
the
style
other ones.
that they do in the other ones too. Because that was another thing that I hated about Persona 5 is nobody warned me about what they do for the fusions. And I cried a little bit the first time that it happened because it's like killing a pet to me,
Yeah,
the
sure.
way that they acted.
Yes.
So
Yes.
didn't love that.
Understood. Well, it is. And I'm going to say this, it's not really a video game, even though it is a video game. Persona and JoJo, and JoJo's Magical Adventure,
Bizarre Adventure.
Bizarre Adventure, thank you. It feels like it's got its own, like, niche, like, people love it.
Yeah.
And it's got its own, like, language and the art to it and the style, like, very, it's very anime fan to it for a video game, even though JoJo's an anime, but you know what I'm saying. Which I really appreciate about it. Like, I really appreciate games that have that kind of really rabid fandom. Like, people cosplay as stuff from that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all the time, everywhere. Like, even when I was seeing Attack on Titan everywhere, I don't see that as much anymore. But I'll see as much Persona stuff as I'll see Attack on Titan or some of the older anime that were super popular for a second and faded away. That still lives.
Yeah.
So people really still love it. Also, that came out this year is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
Love that game.
I think a lot of people think it's the best Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I could see that. It's one of my favorites for sure. The demo for that game, I watched. I can't play horror games.
Right.
I'm somebody who I will just stay in a room and be safe and not go out and adventure.
Yeah.
And I don't like being chased or
Yep.
anything.
Yep.
So I always just have to watch somebody on YouTube or something, some streamer, Twitch, whatever.
Yep.
And watching the demo for 7, like that game looked so cool and so creepy and just the vibes. Very good game.
Yeah, and what was almost universal about reviewers that reviewed it was the atmosphere specifically. Like the fact that they kept everything tense.
Yeah.
And you're on edge and you really felt life or death. And there was just enough camp though too, which is kind of fun. They just sprinkled in camp because it was horror movie-y, but elevated because you're in its place. I also can't do it. I also enjoy to watch it. I won't because I have the kind of temperament where I can't get the visuals of that kind of stuff out of my head. Like if I'm trying to sleep or I'm like whatever, so I can't live in it too much. So I can watch a speed run because speed runs are kind of made that you don't have to linger.
Oh, that's true.
But I probably won't ever watch like a full, and I want to know I like to know the story because it's so wild and like Wesker and Ada Wong and it's just.
And they're all still connected between each of them, even though it seems.
And, they weave in and out, and like the lore of it and everything, just how its existence in general has always been really good, and it's almost to me like Metal Gear Solid, another game that I appreciate, but I can't sit down and play because I don't have the patience to play it the way it needs to be played, but I love to watch it played.
Yeah.
And it's another one where the story, I mean, obviously Metal Gear is on another level when it comes to craziness of story. And
Well, yeah, anything from Kojima is going to be a little bit
Kojima
out there.
just likes to be on a different level of everybody else, which I appreciate. But still, it is still similar in its immersiveness in the way it presents the subjects and it presents the characters, and it leans on compelling things while still having enjoyable camp.
Yeah.
Which I think makes what I like for some of the favorite action games. Like, I haven't played through all the Uncharted, but what of the Uncharted I played is like, hey, it's got some action movie kind of seriousness, and then it's got camp. You know, even just the whole when you get shot and you have things on the screen, you're not actually being shot. It's just your luck is running out.
Yeah.
And the bullet that kills you. Like even that is campy in the right way. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate Resident Evil. And yeah, in the midst of this year, with everything else that came out, it's a great offset for kind of everything else that came out. Because it's different than the other game I'll mention, Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, which as far as FPSs go, that is one I've played a little bit. Just haven't sit down and chewed through the whole series of that new Wolfenstein series because they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
And also have a little bit of camp, but it's much more about the action.
It's very action-packed,
Yeah, it's much more about the action.
Faster pace.
Yeah, faster pace, and the story is both more serious and more campy somehow. Like there's a scene in one of the Wolfensteins where you play an actor that's trying to play Hitler in a play, and Hitler's there judging you in it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a crazy game, but it's fun. It did a really good job finding a way to take the very limited story in the old Wolfenstein games and kind of turn it into its own full-fleshed world. Because I love, as a youth, I loved the old Wolfenstein games. I played more Wolfenstein than I ever played Doom. Like I liked Wolfenstein more than Doom, more than Hexen, until like Rise of the Triad came out. Wolfenstein was my jam. And this is the biggest aside it's ever going to be in the world. I as an old school comic book fan, I always liked when you could just shoot and kill disposable, really shitty bad guys. Like you can kill 100 Nazis or Sentinels or whatever that kind of bullshit. I'm about it. I can just be mindless about it, and it was perfect. So you have to be less mindless in the modern ones. All right, let's see. What else is on the list here? There's another game I wanted to mention. Destiny 2, which isn't my jam.
Yeah, I never played any of the Destinies.
But a lot of people,
I've heard good things.
yeah, it's a loot shooter that has raids and stuff, and people like it. And I got in and played a little bit of Destiny 1 at the beginning, and we played online for a bit, and then I realized I just don't want to. I barely grind on games I know have an ending. Don't make me try to grind on games that there won't ever end.
Yeah.
But it was very popular and still releasing now. Still to this day, Destiny 2 gets content and people play it.
Yeah, I know people who still play it too.
Let's see, Nier
Automata?
There you go. I'm having a pronunciation issue tonight.
I never played that one, but I've heard great things about it.
Also heard great things. I started it as I do everything, but I think I had access to it on the Xbox Game Pass or something. I had access to it for free, and I lost it, and I have it back again. The fun thing about it, narratively, it does a lot of stuff. It's got like 26 endings or something, and some of them range from wild and weird to more serious. There's both the like third-person shooter combat kind of style. Then they have like a bullet hell space shooter-y kind of style. Sometimes they do a little side-scroller-y kind of thing. Like it's really open and there's lots of upgrades, and narratively there's a bunch of stuff that happens, and upgrade style, and it's very stylistic. It's a gem of a game, and again, one of those games that there's not a game like it, and so it also finds itself on people's favorite games list because there's nothing that really simulates what it does.
Yeah.
It's a game that I really want to sit down and really get into because people like it so much.
I don't think that we've actually talked about Horizon yet. We've just mentioned it.
I was saving it until the end.
Okay.
Because I think it's the outstanding one, I think, of the group of them that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So I wanted to wrap with it.
Okay.
Because I don't know how much on the show we've talked about it. I mean, we've talked about it in bits and pieces.
Yeah, I know that I've mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't know,
several
but I
times.
wanted to give it real time. It deserves that.
Yeah.
It deserves that more than Assassin's Creed Origins.
I like Assassin's Creed, but I did not play that one,
I
so I
didn't
can't
either.
say anything. I think I quit. I never actually even played them. I watched friends play it.
Play 'em,
The first 2 or 3. I might have seen part of Black Flag.
Black Flag is the one that I play and will go back and play.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. The ship combat and stuff on it's really cool, and there's not many games like it. Plus, it does the other Assassin's Creed stuff that's, you sneak around and you go into a group of people and then you push the button to act like those people for a second, and then you sneak up behind somebody and stab them in the face. It's great.
Yeah.
Great. And you run around and find sea shanties. What more can you ask for? But I never played Origins. I don't know anything about it. But Assassin's Creed is still in the range of Ubisoft games that Ubisoft has gotten to the point where games kind of lose points because they're Ubisoft games. Because Ubisoft is kind of generating the same kind of game.
Yeah. I think that they still produce some unique games, because I
Sure.
played Immortals Phoenix Rising last year. And it was cute.
Yeah.
And it was, it's Greek mythology, so it's
Yeah.
not like it's a particularly unique story.
Sure.
But I think that they did a really good job with it. But it was annoying that you try to log in and start playing it, and it's like you have to log into an Ubisoft account.
That Ubisoft bullshit.
And it drove me nuts, because why do I need to make an
Yeah.
account to play this?
Yeah, it's stupid. Like, look, I'm a Watch Dogs guy. I like Watch Dogs. I like all of them. Watch Dogs 2 was great. Watch Dogs, the most recent one, that's name I can't remember, was perfectly fine. I think that Star Wars, the open world Star Wars that just released, Outlaws, people have generally positive feelings about. Though I think the complaints about it are generally like, you almost kind of just took a different type of game and just kind of put the skin over top of it, which sometimes we like. And I'm not against doing that to just put it in a property I like, but that's where you're going to get complaints if it doesn't feel like it's done anything necessarily super different in a universe that you could do a lot of super different fun things.
Yeah.
But this is still before that was an issue, I think, still a little bit before that. So Origins, the Assassin's Creed name could kind of jettison you to be a good game status because it still had the right features of Assassin's Creed that you could enjoy it. I mentioned Uncharted. The Lost Legacy came out this year. Came out in 2017, which was basically the game that came out after 4. I never played that far. People seem to like it. I didn't even realize there was that many Uncharteds.
Yeah,
to be
I didn't
honest.
either.
We don't have anything to say about that. There is a game, though, on here in the role-playing game category. There's 2 games on here in the role-playing game category. Final Fantasy 15 came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize
Yeah,
that.
Final Fantasy 15 came out. I just didn't care for it that much.
I
wanted to.
I have a love-hate. Because I like the concept.
Yes.
Boys on a road trip,
Yes.
just having fun.
Yes.
I did not enjoy the combat.
Combat was so uncompelling. I didn't want to play it because I knew I was going to have to do the combat.
Combat was a little painful. Some of the story itself was very disjointed.
Yes.
There was sometimes that something would just start happening and it made no sense. Like it just came out of nowhere. They didn't really flesh out the story very well. But I liked the scenery. I liked the style of the game.
Yeah. Having the car was cool.
Yeah.
You know, like the gas station and Cindy, the gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all cool.
Of course you're going to mention Cindy.
Look, I usually leave the hot lady mentioning to you in this podcast almost completely, so I had to get one in. Yeah, I liked it as an idea. I think I own it in 3 different places with all the expansions, and I keep going. You know, one day I should just bite my lip and just turn all the difficulty down and just get through it.
Yeah. I did enjoy the ending of it.
Oh, nice.
I will say that.
All right.
I appreciated the ending.
All right. Well, there's something to look forward to. But in this section too, I was mentioning that as an aside to the 2 games in the role-playing games that came out this year that I want to mention. The first one is Divinity Original Sin 2, which I think it's made by Larian, the people that made Baldur's Gate 3. Mm-hmm. It's also kind of a turn-based RPG kind of thing. But in Divinity Original Sins, one of the things they did is they had like a teleport spell and a teleport mechanic where you could mix things up really well. So, for example, you could be like, "Oh, there's bad guys over here, and we don't want them to see me. Well, here's a bucket of water, and here's a fire right here. So I'm gonna use telekinesis and drop the bucket of water on the fire, and it's gonna make a bunch of steam. And now they can't see us, so we can sneak around. So they give you like a teleport spell. You could use teleport mechanics and switch places with people. And they did a lot of really cool, unique things inside of playing a role-playing game that was super fun. It had multiplayer. I got stuck on it. I played like 98% of it, and then I lost access to a spell I had to have, or I got a negative thing that was going to make it so I couldn't continue, and I stopped. So I'm going to have to restart over, and I'm going to do it at some point, but I got to beat Baldur's Gate 3. That one I got to get to. All my friends have beaten it 4 times over now. I got to beat Baldur's Gate 3, and then I'll come back to it. So that's on my list. Do you have this is a super, super duper aside, a Mondo major aside. Do you have a non-Final Fantasy role-playing game that you think fondly of?
Yes. Yes. I'm blanking on what it is. Shoot, now I'm going to have to... It'll take me a minute to come back to it.
We'll come back to it. The other role-playing game, one of the other role-playing games that released that year, South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Yes. Which is it turned out to be a rather good game. People really enjoyed it. I haven't played it. I'm not a big South Park guy. I figured it's just something down the road I could play. However, the difficulty scale in that game was when you're a character creation, the whiter you were, the easier the game was, and the darker skin you are, the more difficult the game was. They did a race difficulty scale. Yeah, which is the most South Park thing ever. It's so to their vibe to go with that. I appreciated the effort.
It's something that most people would not get away with, but because they're known for their statements.
Yep.
That suits them. So back to the question.
Yes.
Are we specifically talking a turn-based?
I guess I was more specifically talking turn-based.
That's not a Final Fantasy.
It's not a Final Fantasy.
I know that I have some. I keep thinking of Star Ocean, but I don't remember the story enough to even know if, till the end of time.
I mean, I guess we talked about Chrono Trigger.
Oh, yeah. Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. So I loved Chrono Trigger. And then there's... Well, I've got Ni no Kuni that I'm supposed to play soon. I'm going to start that soon. I haven't played it yet, but I believe that is also a JRPG. I don't know if it is turn-based or not, since I haven't played, but...
I haven't played, but I think I've seen the trailer. I feel like it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it is. From my memory of commercials in the trailer. I feel like it is. Okay, great. Role-playing games out of the way. Only two important mentions of fighting games that came out that year. Injustice 2. I really appreciate the Injustice story. It's a comic book story, so it's pretty simple. But it's a world where it's a different DC Earth where the Joker uses some Scarecrow venom to make Superman think that his pregnant wife Lois is Doomsday. And he also rigged a nuclear bomb to go off when Lois died. And so Superman kills Lois and his baby and blows up the nuclear bomb.
Okay.
Yes, but that's heavy. But so then in that world, Superman kills the Joker. And then he decides, you know what? I can just rule this world and make it so nobody has to go through this anymore. So he starts this regime where he is the boss and he stomps out crime, but nobody can do anything bad, and he rules everything and he takes the world away. And so the Batman of that world gets a message back to the Batman of the current world, and they have this big fight, basically Batman versus Superman, because Batman is like, no, you can't be that way.
Yeah.
And to make it so you can make it a fighting game, they find these pills that they can take that make everybody have super strength so they can fight against each other. But the story has a little bit of twists and turns, and they had to make Superman go over the edge a bit. So he kills Shazam when Shazam's mouth's off against him, and they're like, he's really just a kid. Which is the weirdest thing. Okay, you know what? This is an aside I'm going to take. We're going to go this way for a second. Okay. I'm putting my phone down and everything. Shazam. So Shazam, Captain Marvel, depending on what time of the world the universe is, because Marvel owns the word Marvel, and they have a split ownership, and anyway, it's bullshit. But Captain Marvel, Shazam, is supposed to have the strength of somebody and the speed of whatever, and what he's supposed to have, like God abilities. That's what the Shazam is for. So he's supposed to be super smart, but he's actually just like a 10-year-old kid, right? So the counterbalance is they either make him, most of the time they make him just a bigger, like if you ever saw the DC Shazam movies, which I never saw, he was mostly just a big kid.
Yeah, they make him look like an adult in most of the instances I've seen.
He looks like an adult, but he's an adult piloted by a child.
Yeah, and
so he doesn't gain the wisdom and the intelligence part, which always really bothered me.
Yeah, like
I get that the fun of him is that, but they never quite go over the line. Like he shows up in the animated series. And he's perfect because he's what a 10-year-old kid would pretend Superman would be.
Yeah.
Like, I talk like this, and okay, citizens, and that kind of stuff, which is fun. They have trouble with him in every other circumstance. And so in the game, he just kind of mouths off a bit, like as a 10-year-old would do, and then Superman just eye lasers him through his head.
Well, damn.
Yeah. And so that's the point where some of the good guys that were on his side are like, oh, wait, I can't be a part of this. This is maybe too far.
Yeah.
This has gone too far.
I concur. That is too far.
Yeah, that is too far. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting thought experiment about how far something like that should go, because at a certain point, it's no different than anything else. Even if you're trying to be the most powerful person for good, if you're the one that decides what rights and ideals and things people can have, it's bad.
Live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the framework within that, and Superman talking to Batman, like, your parents could still be alive. If this was happening when you were a kid, your parents wouldn't be dead. There would be no bad guys. There wouldn't be anything. And he's like, I don't know that my parents want to live in a world where, they have to be afraid of everything that happens, and they're in control and whatever. And then the other fun thing is that Aquaman exists and that Atlantis is there, so he's trying to stay the fuck out of it. Like, leave me alone. Superman's not having it. Anyway.
That sounds like that little fish boy.
Yeah. Fish boy. And Tekken 7 also came out.
I do like the Tekken franchise.
Yeah. Tekken 7, good. Tekken 8 is better than Tekken 7.
Could see that, yeah.
Tekken 3 is the best Tekken.
I like Tekken 4.
Tekken 4 is great.
Yeah.
Tekken 4 is great. Tekken 4 and 5, both very good.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even know if I ever played 3, so I can't say much about it.
3 was, until Street Fighter 4, 3 was the best. Tekken 3 was the best, like, modern fighting game jump across. In the non-Smash category. The Smash just lives in its own.
Yeah, it's a little bit unique.
Yeah, its own universe. Tekken 7 was very good. Tekken 8, I was just actually playing Tekken 8 again because at the end of Tekken 7, spoilers everyone, Heihachi dies. And the guy, the main director over Tekken, said, no, Heihachi's gone. He's gone forever. And then they had DLC and they brought Heihachi back. And he's like, sorry, it's the 30th year anniversary. People really like him. We decided we got to bring him back. And I was like, you know what? That's reasonable.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's reasonable. But people were angry. Fair enough. All right. In the strategy category, a couple notable games that came out. XCOM 2, which is great. Too hard for me. I like to watch people play it. I can't handle it. It's too much.
Yeah, strategy's never been my forte.
Total War Warhammer 2 also came out. I like the Total War series. There's a lot of different settings that are super fun. Warhammer is weird and wild and crazy. It's also a fun one, just notable there. In the sports category, the best sports game to come out that year, in my opinion, one of my favorite sports games is Forza Motorsport 7, which you can't buy because they only had so many specific agreements with manufacturers, and when those agreements ran out, you can't get it again. So if you don't already still have it, you can't have it. But Gran Turismo Sport also came out that year. They're on the two sides of the racing game spectrum, where Gran Turismo is very like, the car engines all sound perfect, and you got to get a tune-up, and you got to do all the things. And Forza is more like, here's some cool cars, go race them. But both of them amazing. And then every other series had all their games, FIFA and NBA and bullshit, whatever. Oh, Fortnite did also come out that year. FYI.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Also Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Which is the game I've played by far the most on my Switch. There's no comparison, like by far. During the pandemic, we had a group of people, we played every Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's like 8 of us. Every single Wednesday we play, because what the hell else were we going to do?
Yeah. Back in the day.
Back in the Halcyon days. 2 more games of 2017 that I want to make a mention to. Hollow Knight came out.
Yep.
Amazing. And also, this is a game we played for the 24-hour that nobody I know has ever heard of. I'm going to see if you've heard of it. It's called Mr. Shifty.
Well, I think heard about it during the 24 hours, so.
Mr. Shifty is a game where you can teleport, and there's like puzzles and a little bit of combat. It's like an isometric-y kind of game, and it's like, even though it's action, it's more just puzzles, trying to figure out how to get to the right place.
Yeah.
We played it all the way to the last boss, and then I think the game crashed on me, or the 24 hours was up or something. It was great. It was a really, really good time. Eventually, I want to get back into it, probably in a 24-hour to revisit it, to beat it. But if you guys haven't played Mr. Shifty, it's probably 30 cents somewhere at this point. It wasn't very expensive when I got it. Highly recommend it. For like action puzzle, great. Mr. Shifty, 2 thumbs up.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that's... I think that's the most notable game of 2017, except for the last game to talk about. You'll close us out. Let's talk about Horizon.
Horizon's one of my favorite games.
One of your favorite games.
And it did come out the same year as Breath of the Wild,
Sure.
and I love open worlds, so I spent a whole lot of hours on both of those games. And I love them both, but I think I like Horizon just slightly better than Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Breath of the Wild is a smoother game, but Horizon, the uniqueness that it had with
Yes.
the baddies are robot
Yep.
machines that look like different animals of
Yep.
today, and just the combat I really enjoyed. I generally am not very good at stealthy type of stuff. And some people would argue this is not a particularly stealthy game. This isn't Splinter Cell or anything, but you're still supposed to be hiding,
Sure.
and you can get wrecked by those machines if you don't hide.
Yeah, there's a mechanic that kind of lets you kind of see their pathway or whatever, so you
Yeah.
can find the right spots.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You have, it's called your focus, that you can like look out and see where they're going and follow their path and set a trap for them. And it's just a very unique concept. And then the story itself is really interesting because you just showed up one day outside of this door and everybody's kind of scared of you. So you're an outcast in the tribe that you're from. And so it's also another aspect of the fact that you have all these machines and clearly there is technology, but
Yep.
you're just in a kind of primitive tribe that doesn't have a lot of technology, but then there is all this technology, and where did it come from, and why are people where they are now?
And you kind of and you get to learn with the character about how the world kind of expands.
And how everything came to be,
Yeah.
and who you are.
Yep.
It's very, very interesting to me. And yeah, the combat system, because you are doing the stealthy stuff, but you still have a spear and you can actually stab and do kind of melee attacks, and you have a bow so you can shoot. And it's one of the few games that I'm actually really good at shooting a bow and arrow with.
Nice.
Because most games I'm terrible, but that one I can always zoom in on and pick the weak spots. And
The only game that I'm good at shooting bow and arrow on is Skyrim. But that's because everybody that does a stealth archer build is good.
yeah.
Every single person that's ever done a stealth archer build is good. If you remember, you watched me do the trying to shoot the targets on a bow on the opponent.
I do remember that.
Time. Yeah, not good. Not good.
You didn't do bad though.
Well, and
for
the
the first
controller
time
was-
doing it.
You're trying to get the controller feel down. It was a little jumpy, but not good. And I'm like that. If you don't give me like an auto target or something, forget about it. This is not going to turn out good. How do you feel the story transition from it to its sequel?
I think it did a very good job of transitioning, because at the end of Horizon Zero Dawn, you know who you are, who the baddies are, what they're trying to do, and you finish that. And then the start of Forbidden West, you're actually going to the West. And you end up, like, you do see the Golden Gate Bridge, and you see San Francisco at one point. And so you get a new story, but it's also a continuation of the story, kind of. And you meet more characters, and there's new machines to find because they're different in this part of the world. But you still see some of the same ones that you always saw. Like, there's still a Thunderjaw that you can go fight. And then you have the new ones that are so cool, and more flying ones. And they give you, spoiler alert for anybody, you get a flying mount near the end of the game. So you can just fly around and go explore everything, and it's really cool. And if you play the DLC, your flying mount that you can get in the DLC also can go underwater.
Oh,
So you can like swim under the ocean for a bit too.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
It also gives you, I don't know, you get to see what was Vegas, or I think it's supposed to represent Vegas
Right.
in the game, and you light up the sky at one point and you can see the lights and
That's
things.
cool. That's cool. I was about to ask you if it was supposed to be like layered over the United States or what. So.
Yeah, it is, but it's also everything's very close together, so it's
Sure.
not a perfect
Of
match,
course,
but because obviously you can't go from Vegas to San Francisco
Yeah.
in that short amount of time, but it's very well done.
Nice.
And you can kind of predict where the story goes in this one more so than you could the first one, in my opinion. It's kind of like, oh, well, this is what's going to be happening here, and you're right. But it sets up very well for the next game, too.
Nice. This is going to lead to a follow-up question I'm not going to ask on this episode because we're like 45 minutes in.
Okay.
But it's a question I do want to ask you at some point, so I'm going to save it. Listen, we got what I think is going to be a very interesting gaming recording coming up in
2 episodes?
in 2 episodes or so. I think it'll be interesting. I got some real ideas for that one. So, but that's our tour of gaming in 2017. I'd be interested to hear if any of your favorites, those of you at home, any of your favorite games are from this list. If you're a friend of mine, then you better say Cuphead. You don't have a choice. If you're not a friend of mine, why aren't you? So that I can tell you about Cuphead. That's all. Thanks.
Bye.